Hi. Welcome to my channel. Don't forget my PlayStation 5 giveaway for 1,000 subscribers. Throwaway account because, well, you'll see why. I never thought I'd be writing one of these posts. If you'd asked me a few years ago, I would have said my relationship was solid. We had that classic we met by chance kind of story. It all started when some mutual friends dragged me out for a paintball game. I almost bailed, thinking, what's the point of running around getting shot at on my day off? But damn, I'm glad I didn't. That's when I met her, let's call her M. She was crazy competitive, talking trash to everyone, especially me. I still remember her laughing after nailing me right between the eyes. Goggles fogged up, pride bruised, but honestly? I was impressed. We didn't exchange numbers then. It felt like a random funny encounter that would just live rent-free in my mind for a while. But 2 weeks later, fate did its thing again. A beach trip with some friends, and there she was, walking toward me, surfboard under one arm, grinning like the universe had played a trick on us both. From that moment on, we just clicked. At the bonfire that night, we ended up sitting next to each other playing Cards Against Humanity. I won with the most horribly inappropriate card you can imagine, like one of those cards that makes everyone gasp and then burst out laughing. And apparently, that was it. M said later that she was hooked from that moment on. Guess my dark humor was the secret weapon all along, lol. 8 years later, we were still together, even expecting our first child this year. Everything seemed perfect. But if life has taught me anything, it's that when everything seems perfect, you better start looking closer. For a long time, everything felt easy with M. We moved in together after a year, got a dog, built a life that honestly felt better than anything I'd ever imagined for myself. But looking back now, the little cracks were there. They always are, aren't they? You just don't see them when you're standing too close. It started small. M would get really defensive over her phone, like snatching it away if it buzzed while we were watching TV, or taking calls in the bathroom with the door closed. I didn't want to be that guy, the paranoid boyfriend, so I told myself it was nothing. She deserved her privacy. Then there were the work trips. At first, they were rare. Once every few months. No big deal. But after year 6? It felt like she was always packing a bag for some last-minute overnight thing. Again, I made excuses. She's building her career. She's working hard for our future. But deep down, this tiny voice started whispering, something's off. I didn't want to hear it. I wasn't ready. I was already picturing us growing old together, raising our kid, having the kind of life my own parents never managed to give me. I didn't want to believe that the woman I loved could be hiding something from me. Spoiler, she was. It happened on a random Thursday. One of those boring days where you're just counting the hours till the weekend. M was working late again. I was home alone, half watching a basketball game, when our dog, this clumsy golden retriever we both spoiled rotten, knocked M's laptop off the coffee table. It slid across the floor, popped open, and lit up. Now, normally, I wouldn't have even looked. But something on the screen caught my eye before I could stop myself, a text conversation. Not email. Not work stuff. Texts. From someone saved under a fake name, Melissa Work, except the preview said, "Last night was incredible. Can't wait to see you again. Miss you already." My stomach dropped. It was like the whole room tilted sideways. I just sat there staring at it, heart pounding, brain doing backflips trying to explain it away. Maybe it's a joke. Maybe it's a friend teasing her. Maybe. But when I opened the laptop and scrolled, the truth hit me like a punch to the face. Dozens of messages. Pictures. Plans. Inside jokes. Way too familiar. Way too intimate. Not just with one person either. There were at least 2 different threads. I felt like I was going to be sick right there on the living room floor. Everything I thought I knew about our life, about her, it crumbled in an instant. I wish I could tell you I handled it like some calm, composed adult. I didn't. first thing I did was slam the laptop shut so hard I thought I broke it. The dog jumped back and started whining, like even he knew something was seriously wrong. I just sat there with my head in my hands, feeling like I couldn't breathe. My heart was racing so fast it felt like it might punch through my chest. Every memory of her, every stupid little moment we shared, flashed through my mind. The beach trip. The paintball match. The nights we stayed up too late laughing about nothing. The times we talked about baby names. All of it felt fake. Like it belonged to some other life, some other version of me that had no idea what was really going on. I remember thinking, who the hell am I even living with? Who the hell have I been planning to raise a kid with? The betrayal cut so deep, it physically hurt. I felt it in my chest, my gut, my hands. Everything inside me screamed to do something, scream at her, call her, drive somewhere, anything. But I didn't move. I just sat there frozen, completely wrecked. And that's when I realized. I couldn't pretend it was nothing anymore. The fantasy was over. After sitting there for what felt like forever, I knew I had two choices. Blow up immediately, or be smart about it. I wanted to rage. I wanted to call her and scream every horrible thing I was feeling. But deep down, something colder started to settle in. I didn't just want to fight. I wanted answers. I decided right then, I wasn't going to give her a chance to lie her way out of this. I was going to get the whole story first. The truth, every ugly detail. So I got up, grabbed a notepad from the kitchen, and started writing down everything I found. Names. Dates. Messages. Screenshots. I took pictures of the laptop screen, backing up everything in case she tried to wipe it later. I even went back through old texts on my own phone, trying to line up her work trips with the messages she was sending these other guys. And holy hell, it all fit. Almost every business conference or overnight client meeting lined up perfectly with some romantic text thread. The more I uncovered, the sicker I felt. But weirdly, the more focused I became too. It was like I had flipped a switch inside me. This wasn't my fault. I didn't do this. But I sure as hell was going to finish it. I made my plan. I would wait for her to come home. Face to face. No screaming, no threats, just facts. Make her say it. Make her admit it. And depending on how she reacted. Well, let's just say, everything was about to change. I heard her key in the lock around 9:45 p.m. Later than usual. Typical. My heart was hammering in my chest, but on the outside, I stayed still, sitting at the kitchen table, laptop open in front of me like some kind of trap. Our dog ran to the door, tail wagging, clueless. She walked in smiling, tossing her bag onto the couch like nothing in the world was wrong. "Hey babe," she said casually, kicking off her shoes. She didn't even look guilty. That pissed me off more than anything. The ease. The normalcy. Like she hadn't just been lying straight to my face for God knows how long. I didn't say anything. Just sat there, staring at her. It took her a second to realize something was off. She glanced at the table, saw the open laptop, the screen full of messages she thought were hidden, and froze. The color drained from her face so fast it was like watching a movie in slow motion. "Sit down," I said. My voice came out low and steady, even though inside I felt like I was shaking apart. She hesitated, then sat. No jokes. No fake smiles. No "you're overreacting." Just silence. "You want to explain this?" I asked, pointing at the screen. She opened her mouth, closed it again. Tears filled her eyes instantly. She wasn't angry. She wasn't defensive. She was caught. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "It didn't mean anything. I swear. I was just lonely." Lonely? Living with me? Planning a damn family with me? I almost laughed. Almost. And that's when she dropped the first bomb I wasn't expecting at all. She started crying harder, like ugly sobbing, the kind that comes from deep in your chest. For a second, a tiny second, some old instinct in me wanted to comfort her. That's how screwed up love can make you. But I didn't move. I just waited. And then she said it. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't think you'd want to stay if you knew. Knew what? I asked, feeling the floor tilt again under me. She took a shaky breath, wiped her nose on her sleeve, and blurted out. The baby might not be yours. Silence. Like someone had pressed mute on the entire world. I just sat there, staring at her, the words not even registering at first. It was like she punched the air out of my lungs and then stood there watching me suffocate. The baby, the one we had been planning for. The one we had painted a nursery for. The one I had cried over when we saw the heartbeat on the ultrasound. Might not be mine. I felt something inside me snap. Not anger. Not sadness. Just emptiness. A bottomless pit opening up inside my chest. Who? I finally managed to say, my voice rough. She shook her head, sobbing harder. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The betrayal wasn't just emotional anymore. It was physical. It was total. And in that moment, I realized whatever future I thought we had. It was dead. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even cry. I just stood up, chair scraping loud against the tile, and walked into the bedroom. Shut the door behind me. Locked it. Em stayed on the other side, banging and sobbing and begging. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing, feeling absolutely hollow. I thought about everything, the paintball game, the beach trip, the stupid Cards Against Humanity night that we laughed about for years. Every little memory suddenly felt poisoned. Tainted. Like it all meant nothing now. And the baby. God, the baby. I had already pictured teaching them how to ride a bike. Building pillow forts in the living room. Christmas mornings. First days of school. All of that gone in a single sentence. It was one thing to cheat. It was another thing to lie for years. But dragging an innocent child into it? That broke something deep inside me that I didn't even know could break. I knew right then that I couldn't stay. Not for her. Not for the sake of appearances. Not even for the baby, especially with the kind of uncertainty hanging over it. I had to get out. I had to survive this. Because if I stayed, I wasn't sure there would be anything left of me when it was over. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't even lie down. I just sat in the dark, listening to her crying outside the door until her voice finally gave out. Around 5 a.m., I made my decision. I wasn't going to fight. I wasn't going to scream. I was going to leave clean, fast, and permanent. I packed a bag with whatever I could fit. Clothes, toothbrush, a couple of important documents I didn't want her touching. Left everything else behind, the TV, the furniture, even the dog's favorite toys. It all felt contaminated now. Like none of it really belonged to me anymore. Before I walked out, I left her a note on the kitchen table. No big speech. No dramatic goodbye. Just 5 words. I hope it was worth it. And then I walked out. Didn't look back. Didn't even lock the door. I got in my car and just drove. No destination. No plan. Just miles and miles of silence, trying to outrun the sick, crushing feeling in my chest. I didn't know where I was going yet. All I knew was that wherever I ended up, it had to be somewhere she couldn't reach me. The first few days were a blur. I crashed on a buddy's couch who didn't ask questions, just handed me a beer and a blanket and let me be. Bless him for that. I slept maybe 3 hours total that first night. Kept waking up gasping, like my body didn't believe it was really over. I would dream I was still at home, that none of it had happened, then wake up to a strange ceiling, a pounding headache, and that same ache in my chest. Em texted. Called. Emailed. Begged. Offered couples therapy. Promised it was just mistakes. Swore she still loved me. I didn't answer a single message. Blocked her everywhere. Even changed my number after the second day when the unknown calls wouldn't stop. But even with her voice finally silenced, my mind was loud. So loud. Every quiet moment turned into a reel of memories and what-ifs and how could she's. I couldn't listen to music. Couldn't watch TV. Everything felt like a trigger. Every love song felt like it was mocking me. But in the middle of all that hurt, something unexpected started to grow. This tiny seed of relief. Because for the first time in forever, I wasn't second-guessing myself. I wasn't doubting my gut. I knew I had done the right thing by walking away. And no matter how broken I felt, I also knew. This pain was temporary. Staying would have destroyed me for good. It didn't happen overnight. Hell, it didn't even happen in the first month. I remember my first week alone, sitting in the middle of my friend's living room, feeling completely hollow. I had no idea who I was anymore. I wasn't just mourning a relationship. I was mourning a version of myself that no longer existed. But slowly, inch by inch, I started picking up the pieces. I threw myself into work, which honestly helped more than I thought. At least there, I could focus on something outside my own head. I spent hours at the gym, pushing myself till my body couldn't take it anymore, just so I could feel something other than the emotional bruises. I started hanging out with friends again. Not to distract myself, but to remind myself of who I was before M. The guy who had hobbies, who laughed at stupid jokes, who didn't feel constantly weighed down by someone else's choices. I took long walks alone. I let myself cry when I needed to and also laugh. Because it was okay to feel both. There were days I felt like I'd never get out of the fog, and there were days I actually felt okay. But the real shift came when I started thinking about what I wanted again. No more pretending. No more putting other people's needs above my own. And the biggest realization? I was going to be a father. Whether M was in the picture or not. That was still a future I could have, and I wasn't going to let her screw that up for me. As I started to rebuild, something became crystal clear. I wasn't going to let anyone else dictate my future. It wasn't just about M anymore. It wasn't just about what had happened or the pain I'd been through. It was about me, my life, my choices, my future. I started making decisions from a place of strength, not fear. I signed up for therapy, something I never thought I'd do. But I realized I had to process everything, not just the betrayal, but my own role in it. Why had I allowed myself to ignore the signs? Why had I stayed so long? And when I was ready, I took a step further. I bought a place of my own. It wasn't huge, but it was mine. I didn't have to share it with anyone. It felt like a fresh start, my own space to breathe, to think, to heal. But the most important step in this whole journey was when I realized I didn't need to be angry anymore. It wasn't about forgiving M, not yet, at least. It was about forgiving myself for staying in something that wasn't right. I wasn't perfect. I wasn't without flaws. But I wasn't the guy who let someone else decide his worth anymore. For the first time in months, I looked at myself in the mirror and saw someone who was capable of moving forward. As the weeks went on, I started to feel like myself again. But it wasn't just the physical changes, the gym, the therapy, the new apartment. It was the mental shift. I began to look forward, not back. I still had moments where I'd find myself thinking about M, the good memories, the broken promises, but they became just that, memories. I realized the best way to heal was to stop living in the past. I started thinking about what I really wanted for my future. The kind of partner I deserved. The kind of father I could be. I'd gone through hell and come out the other side. And while I couldn't change what happened, I could shape the life that was ahead of me. I wasn't in a rush to date again. I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. But I started to consider the idea of love again when the time was right. More than that, I wanted to make sure I was whole before I brought anyone else into my life. And when I did start thinking about relationships again, it wasn't about filling the emptiness I'm left. It was about finding someone who was real, someone who deserved me, not just someone who happened to be in my life at the right time. I'll admit, I was scared to let someone else in. I mean, how could I trust again? How could I put my heart on the line after all that? But one night, while I was out with a few friends, I met someone. It wasn't like a movie, you know? No sparks flying across the room. Just a simple, genuine conversation. Her name was Zoe. She didn't push me, didn't ask about my past. We just talked. About life, about stupid stuff, about things that didn't matter. It felt so normal. And for the first time in a long time, I realized that normal could be good. We took things slow. Not because I was afraid, but because I wasn't in a rush anymore. I wasn't looking for a quick fix. I was looking for something real. It wasn't perfect. We had our bumps, our moments of doubt, but there was an honesty between us that I hadn't felt in a long time. And little by little, I started to believe that maybe love wasn't some trap. Maybe it could actually be the thing I'd been missing. Zoe didn't make me forget Em, no one could. But she helped me see that I was capable of loving again. That I was worthy of a healthy, honest relationship. And that, for once, felt like enough. Now that it's all behind me, I look back and think about everything I went through. The pain, the anger, the confusion. But more than that, I think about how far I've come. I used to think that love was supposed to fix everything, that if you loved hard enough, you could overcome anything. But I learned the hard way that love can't be the only thing that holds you together. It's trust, respect, communication, all those things that are harder to see in the heat of the moment. Love can blind you to the truth if you're not careful. And here's what I tell anyone who's going through a similar situation. Don't stay because you're scared of being alone. Don't stay because you think it will get better on its own. Don't stay because you're afraid of losing what you've built together. Sometimes, walking away is the bravest thing you can do. Sometimes, the best way to love yourself is to stop letting someone else hurt you. And sometimes, you have to lose everything to find out who you really are. I lost my trust, my sense of self, my future, but I found something more important in the end. My peace. My independence. My ability to rebuild. I've learned that I can't control what others do, but I can control how I respond. I don't need to be defined by someone else's choices. I am who I choose to be. And that's a freedom I didn't know I needed. So, to anyone out there feeling stuck, feeling betrayed, or wondering if they'll ever find their way back to themselves, you will. It won't be easy. It won't be quick. But you will rebuild. And you will be stronger for it. As for me, I'm still figuring things out day by day. But I've learned that it's okay to take my time. To trust again when I'm ready. And to never, ever settle for less than what I deserve. And if that means walking away from something toxic, then so be it. I'm worth more than that. End of story.